So my name is Philippe Blanc. I've been here since September 1995. And I'm currently general manager of Beychevelle. I'm a qualified winemaker and agronomist, and I'm taking care of this little company and this little vineyard. So my professional career started when I was studying for an enology degree in Champagne with Moët & Chandon. My first job was in Alsace. So I used to say I always worked abroad because in Alsace they were not speaking much French, they were speaking German and Alsatian. But then I stayed there 9 months, and then I left and I went to Australia for where I spent 4 years. The history of the chateau is a long history, so it's difficult to make it brief because we are in a place which has centuries of history behind it, as the Lebanon Cedar can show, which is about 300 years. So here the chateau is mid-18th century. We are in a building which was made in 1750s, but the first chateau was made basically 2 centuries earlier. Beychevelle means something. Beychevelle means Bêche. First part of the name is lower, baisser in French. Velle is the sail, the voile. So it's a boat which lowers the sail. Then we have to come to legend and history. And history, you notice the Gironde is 900 meters away there. And when the boats were passing by, they were supposed to lower their sail to show respect to the owner of all this area, who was the gentleman Duke of Épernon. He was in charge of the marine of the king. He was Grand Admiral or Admiral of France. And the boats were supposed to lower their sail, any boats, to show respect. So that's the name Beychevelle. So the terroir of Beychevelle is mainly composed of sandy, gravelly soils, deep gravels and deep soils. The core of it and the best part of it is north of the winery, this side, and gives a huge ratio of Grand Vin. Nearly everything of the blocks located on this terroir make Grand Vin. So we've got a vineyard which has about 60 or 70 different blocks, but the best part makes Grand Vin, and the other part, which is not bad by no way, but not as good, makes second wine. Our second wine is called Amiral de Beychevelle, and it's another vineyard. So basically, one vineyard makes second wine for more than 90% of it, and the best core of it makes Grand Vin. So we have hardly no selection on this terroir, which is absolutely very good. So it's early, it's warm, so it's early. It's absolutely not frost prone, and it's very well drained, and the maturity is reached very nicely early enough. The label of Beychevelle is quite unique in terms of being carrying not a chateau, not a gate, but a boat on a white label. It's very recognizable though. This boat is the boat going on the river, Gironde, and lowering the sail to show respect, and thus the name Beychevelle. The people who work here are very important. The human part of the team is incredibly different now than years ago or 20 or 30 years ago. So yes, it's a teamwork. I'm just, kind of a captain or in an orchestra, the leader, but nothing else. We've got a very good technical team with a technical director and winemaker called Romain Ducolon, comes from Burgundy as well, and he's been doing very good job and very good wines on the right bank before coming to Beychevelle. So Romain has been here for 10 years now. Then we've got good guy in the vineyard, because the vineyard is so important. So David is important, David Lafosse. And then we've got people for the trade, and we've got people for the public relations, and it's a 60 people team overall, permanent. So that's really a teamwork. The vineyard in Beychevelle has got 2 different parts. One is the main one, the one where we meet is Saint-Julien vineyard. And then we've got the neighbor Médoc vineyard. So we've got 14 hectares, which is something like close to 40 acres, I bet, in Médoc, and over 80 hectares of Saint-Julien. So overall, it's 90, 94, 220, 230 acres. So that's the vineyard. Then varieties are today Cabernet Sauvignon, which is number one, Merlot, number two, and Petit Verdot. We used to have Cabernet Franc. We have no Cabernet Franc anymore when I'm talking now. But that's basically. So majority in terms of acreage is Cabernet Sauvignon, then Merlot, and Petit Verdot, which is very small. The overall production of Beychevelle is we make basically 3 different wines. So I mentioned the Médoc, we let it apart, and then in Saint-Julien we share it in 2 parts, Grand Vin, Chateau Beychevelle, and what we call second wine, Amiral de Beychevelle. Basically today in the recent vintage we keep 55% for Grand Vin and 40% for Amiral. Then your question could be, where are the other 5%? We do other things with the 5%, can be sold bulk or do a special bottling, but that's very small. Regarding the viticulture and the way we do, we are absolutely concerned that the issue of pesticides is very important, and for the society is getting more and more important. And I must say, as far as I'm concerned, it's more and more important for me as well. I've got a very different view today than when I was 25 some years ago. We've doing quite a lot of experiments on large scales, large meaning nearly up to 1/3 of the vineyard in being absolutely organic viticulture. But as we cannot get a certification on just a share, nor even just one appellation, I mentioned Médoc, the owners, because I'm not the owner, decided we are not prepared to go to fully certified organic viticulture. So basically, I started that in 2008, and for more than 12 or 13 years, we've done it. Today, we are very competitive in terms of we gave up plenty of really bad stuff. For example, here we banned herbicide in 2008. Before we were using a very small bit, but we banned it, so no herbicides. In 96, I banned insecticide, I banned plenty, and every time we know a product is very dangerous, like there are some silly names about that, we gave them up. So we are pretty conscious and pretty efficient, but we are not organic, and nor, of course, not biodynamic. That's an owner decision, not my decision. So climate change is a real issue for the people who believe in. I'm part of it anyway. So I think that being here for over 25 years really makes, you can touch it. The difference is paramount between the end of the 90s and today. And I guess everything is said that it will get worse or get quicker. And the effect of global warming in the coming decades will be huge. But on the other hand, it's difficult to make. We've got an industry which is very slow cycles and long cycles. So if I dig the vines out, I do it and plant new ones. I do it for the next 25, 30, 40 years, which is very difficult. So in the viticulture, we are quite slow in finding answers. Basically, we reduced, for example, the use of some rootstocks, which were more adapted to cool climate, and we replaced them by rootstock adapted to drought. They are less ripening quickly in order not to reach too high degrees. Merlot, of course, is a variety which will be in danger in the future, or should be in danger. Of course, for example, I started in the 90s to make leaf plucking, for example. We do less today than we used before. So all these kind of things. Now you've got other things that you can't do now, for example, irrigation. Maybe one day we'll have. I'm against, and I think irrigation here will be something we'll never see, but time will tell. And changing varieties is another issue. But first, the choice is not that big today, and it's very difficult to imagine new varieties in a very short term, because you don't know if the wine will last 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years. So it's a very slow process. And then we try as well to be conscious about, carbon footprint and to make efforts on that. So that's something we're really working. The team again is working out on that and to see what we can do for the future. Planting new grapes is something more on the book at the moment than really in the field. The French system and appellation system is very slow reaction. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to have agreement. Planting new variety, if it's not to make Saint-Julien wine, it's difficult at the moment. If I decide to plant Shiraz, I can make Vin de France, but I can't make Saint-Julien. So in terms of value, it's difficult to do it, but I think it will have to move together. If we do what we call viniferas, the most sensible things to take is to take varieties coming from the south, mainly Spain and Portugal maybe, and see how they adapt here. It's always this way. You go up north. You plant Pinot Noir in Sweden, for example, or in Brittany, or Chardonnay in Kent, so it's always going north. Maybe it's good to invest in Brittany or in Normandy to make new vineyards in the future. But here in Bordeaux, today I've got here no new varieties, but we keep an eye on that. And as soon as we'll be allowed to plant new varieties, even for trying, even 2%, 3%, we'll do it. The process of winemaking and taking care of the wine is long and short. It takes about 18 months between picking, basically occurs in September, and bottling, which occurs 2 years down the road in June, like it is the case today. Basically, it's winemaking, making wine in vats, then blending, finding the good compounds to make Grand Vin, second wine, aging in barrels, 12 months for second wine, 18 months for Grand Vin, and then bottling 18 months later. So in Bordeaux and in Beychevelle forever, we've always been winemaking block by block, parcel by parcel, and variety by variety. And we stick to that today. In terms of technology, you've got two ways of seeing it. We can consider we're very traditional, and I think we are. For me, tradition is more sticking to high level of exigence and high level of care. That's what I call the most tradition, because of course what we're doing today is a bit different compared with what used to be done 50 years ago. In terms of technology, winemaking is quite simple though. We need vats, of course, they are temperature controlled, they're computer controlled in terms of choosing the temperature, monitoring the temperature. But then, for example, fermentation is reasonably natural. You put a bit of yeast with fruit and it makes that. You do pumping over, so you've got a pump. That's not high technology. So basically, I think it's quite simple type of machinery. It's a simple process, but we try to make it with, good tools and with care. All the wines are barrel aged. Of course, what changes is the length of the aging, as you just questioned, and the ratio of new barrels. Basically, for Grand Vin, 100% is French oak. We use now 70% new oak, and for a duration of 18 months. For second wines, which are less structured, less dense, we use less new oak, 35% new oak, and the duration is a bit shorter, 12 months. And we are very faithful to a group of coopers. We've got about 10, 12 different coopers. And basically, we don't change. We monitor, we taste regularly to assess the quality of the barrels. And as we're happy with the quality they provide us with, we keep going this way. Creating the Beychevelle wine and label is not blending samples of barrels. It's first blending the different wines we cropped. So when we are in blending process, in Beychevelle we blend in February, that's the end of the game, we do the blending. February N+1, what we say, for example, vintage 21, in February 22, the blend is made. But we've got on the table 90 or 95 different samples. That's all the Merlots coming from all the blocks growing Merlots, then all the Cabernets, and then the wine presses. So we've got 95, and we taste, we assess. That's very good, that will make Beychevelle. That's very good, that will make Beychevelle. That's good, but not good enough, that will make Amiral. That's in the middle, we'll see later. And then we blend. And then it goes to barrel. So barrel in the blending process is not that important. What's important, but it's something for us without huge difficulty, is to make sure we do not bottle from one barrel, because one barrel is new, for example, and I said 70%. So when we make wine, we put wine in the bottle, it has to be faithful to the ratio, new and not new, and all the different coopers. So we have to make it's more mixing in that sense than blending in the way. But blending is finding out what share of Cabernet I want, what share of Merlot I want, what share of Petit Verdot I want, what share of wine press I want, and where are they coming from? What are the best to make something in phase with our idea of balance and harmony. I had a lot of autonomy, a lot of freedom. The shareholders gave me give me the keys, and of course I report to them. But basically, most of the thing we've done here, we decided. We gave the plans, we explained the reason, and then we added. So, I think my goal when I arrived here was to say, I want to make good wines. I don't want to make the best wine. I just want to be part of the good wine world. And I think that's a kind of a highlight, because I think we're part of it. The most important lesson is that although we are privileged, we always have to work hard and never take it for granted, and keep trying, keep improving. And I think maybe when people reproach something to Beychevelle, I think very often it's unfair, or the old Beychevelle, but maybe they forgot that a little bit at the time. And I think I put that back on the table, and I think that's a never-ending process of doing efforts and trying to make sure everything is at the finest. And I think that's motivating, and the job is to make sure that everybody's motivated with the same goal. The age of the wines is a good question, but it's a living question. And the vintage 19 especially has been showing questions about that. But basically, to make it simple, we consider for Chateau Beychevelle, 8-10 years patient is good. And then in terms of living, anytime, decades. Although I would recommend to customers and to wine lovers between 10 and 20. Between 10 and 20, it's absolutely dead sure, always perfectly good. Before, you may like or you may not have cellaring capacity and decide to drink your wine earlier, but you're on the fruit, you're on young wines. Many people know young wines better than old wines. Too old, it's difficult to exist. I'll be dead when it's too old, so we don't care. But 20, 30, 40 years is very common, and it's very good for our wines. The drinking window I was mentioning before, I just mentioned 19. A surprise with vintage 19, for example, is that it's so welcoming, so charming. You could really consider, why waiting 8 years? What's the point? And I agree with the question. I have no answer, because when we taste it, at the moment we taste it nearly every day. We say, wow, that's so good, so seducing, so round, so pleasant. We could drink it, we could enjoy it. And I'm sure some customers could enjoy that. Nevertheless, the rule so far for us is, I would say, even for 19, keep it 5 or 6 years before drinking, and it will be perfect. For Beychevelle, if you were telling me what do I buy, I would buy 2018. I think that's the best vintage we've made so far. For the rest, if it's for tonight or any other wines, I would get something older, because it's too young to really enjoy for tonight. The style of Beychevelle wines is again based on elegance of tannins and harmony. When people drink Beychevelle, it's always without a green, without something. We don't like raw tannins. We like elegant tannins. We get fine tannins. That's all about that, making great red wines. And I think we've got this very good balance. Even when it's extraordinarily ripe, like 2018 I mentioned before, the balance is overall and is perfectly there in place, and it gives a lot of quality to the wine. The wines we make at Beychevelle are wines to pair food. So we don't make wine to have aperitif with. It's really wine to be with food. And for us, it's so important here, and that's why we're here together. That's a place where we like to have people around the table and have good time. And we like good food and good time. Then Beychevelle is a very welcoming wine and very pleasant with nearly everything. There are some type of meals you must avoid with Beychevelle or red Saint-Julien, but it's very easy to go. So we like, of course, we like meat, we like beef, we like a T-bone, we like a game with Beychevelle, but we can have fish with Beychevelle as well, provided it's cooked accordingly with red sauce and red reduction, and not with lemony, nothing acid. You must avoid acid things. Like cheese. I'm not a great fan of cheese and red wine, although French consider it like that. The camembert, the baguette, and the bottle of wine. It's not very true. White wine is so much often better. But we've got some cheese. But you must avoid, for example, goat cheese. Goat cheese and Beychevelle is a nightmare. Blue cheese with Beychevelle is a nightmare. So there are things you must avoid. But for the rest, it's very enjoyable. And choosing the vintage is a good with pairing with the food. If you've got a food with plenty of mushrooms, you may find something a little bit older, a bit more mushroomy, a bit more earthy. If you want something with fruity character, you will find something younger with fruit, quite obvious, to have a nice harmony again between wine and the meal. The role of wine critics is very important, but as I'm a very rude person, I said to somebody one day in London at a seminar that the most important persons were the customers and not the journalists. So everybody laughed in the room, but I still do believe in that. Journalists are extremely important, they're knowledgeable, they're good guides, but I think the best guide you can get is the customer himself. Now, if you need help, you can follow some journalists that you trust and that you agree when they taste, which is not always the case as far as we're concerned. Now, with the newcomers, there are a lot of newcomers. I think what Parker was making easy at the time, he was the one, and it was easy to remember one name, and he was very famous. Today, you've got a multitude of influencers, of bloggers, of journalists as well. I'm not sure anybody takes really the lead. I think as customers, you have to find the people you feel good with. It's on YouTube, it's on the web, it's on paper, it's on a magazine. And what do I feel good with? And then stick to it. But the most important thing is to open a bottle, to share it with friends and see if you like it, and you give the mark you want then. So historical classification in Médoc is 1855. So it's it's not 30 years, it's far more than that. And in my opinion, it will stick to that and it will stay valid. I don't think anybody has ever written, serious people anyway, that first growth didn't deserve their place of first growth. It never happened. Then you've got fifth growth who are doing the job of second growth or selling like second growth. And that works very well. So if I had something to say myself, I would say we don't touch it. It's a monument. We are part of the landscape around the monument, and we try to work well around the monument. But when we see people touching the monuments and we look at the West and we see what happens at the West, it's always very complicated. So I would say in 30 years' time, stick to 1855 classification in Médoc. No, in terms of project, as I mentioned, we do all we can not to get bored and to keep motivation. So at the moment, the main projects are towards environment. So we really wonder what we can do to change our impact about environment. But that's not things you can do like that because it's complicated. It's high investments, involvement. Big issues here in the coming years as well is labor. Labor will be a huge issue. So that's things we really think of. We try to find ways, different ways. It can be training. It can be how can we get more attractive, because for some reason sometimes we are not attractive and it's difficult to understand why. We do as well robots, for example, because if we can't find labor, maybe we'll have to go through robotization. So there are plenty of things still going. We are in a moving world, and it's interesting to move and to move forward with the world. So we keep busy. So in terms of investment, the shareholders enabled me to spend a bit of money. I'm a good money spender. Maybe not enough, but it's a few grounds though. And we invest every year quite a bit of money because we've got top of the range piece of material. We buy, of course, things which seems you can take it for granted, but when we buy 800 barrels, that's quite a bit of money. But that's what we call yearly investments, and that's no issue on that. Then regarding major investments, you may have visited our new winery. It was a major investment. We made that in 2016, and it was a new step, and a new highlight again in the life of the property, because that's a new tool for the next 20 or 30 years, and it was a major step forward in terms of improving the quality of our wines. So regarding volumes released en primeur, our policy is to be absolutely involved with our primeur system. We've got about over 100 negociant customers, which is a lot. And we sell 85% of our production. That has been a change 5 years ago in 2016, where before we were selling 95-96%, which is extremely high. And we were frustrated not to have any volumes of available wines for doing anything. So if tomorrow you decide you want to make an event with us, we can make an event. We always got enough wine for drinking, but we have no wine for selling. And it was a bit frustrating for us and for the merchants here or abroad, saying, can we get 5 cases for our customers? No, we have no wine. So we decided to decrease the share sold en primeur to 85%. So we are really absolutely positive about 85%, which I think is very reasonable in terms of volumes. So we don't play the scarcity, we play this game of primeur. But yes, there has been a decrease from 95 to 85. but there is no intention whatsoever to go down, to go lower than that at the moment. So again, and why are we so dedicated about primeur? Beychevelle, as you probably know, is a wine which increases its value after time. And our golden rule is the primeur price is the cheapest you can get. You can't get anything cheaper. So we set the price on primeur. Generally speaking, it's reasonably successful, not to say 100% successful. And then the price goes up. So we could say, okay, keep more because the price will go up. But we don't want that, this policy, because setting the price at a more reasonable level makes possible to sell it to what we said before, traditional market. So that's what we want. So we stick to that.
So how do you manage, how do you decide what price to sell your wine at?
I take a coin, I throw it, and then I see what it for. No, you know how it works in Bordeaux. We've got an history, we've got a sales history, we know perfectly well the stocks, our stock, the merchant stocks, and we know the value of our wine every day, every vintage. Here in Bordeaux, which is the most important thing for us, but as well, we keep an eye on what happens at Livex or wherever. And then we decide, we make sure, we ask the people you mentioned before, we are our customers, we exchange views. We don't do anything without making sure our decision will be full of sense. And once they said, okay, that's not a bad idea, we said it. And I've done that 25 times, and we've always done it okay. So we never made, I think, any mistake. And again, to make it simple, we sell it very quickly and 100%. The only drawback is I should have some more. If I could have twice as more, it would be better. So I think we know the basics. Very simple rules. The primeur is the cheapest one, and it works very well. The deciding of the primeur price is based on golden rule. The primeur price is the cheapest price of Beychevelle you can get. Any other available wine is more expensive. And when you get that and you share it with some actors, we know that we've got it okay. In terms of markets, we, as you know, we do not decide of the markets. We sell to Bordeaux négociants, and then they sell to England, to the US, or to France, or wherever. Now, where is Bordeaux and where is Beychevelle sold? We are sold over 100 different countries. But then the fact is Asia is by far number one. There is a great sense of love between Chinese and the label of Beychevelle, and that attracts them a lot. And then Beychevelle is a very famous brand of Bordeaux wine for Chinese, so that attracts quite a bit of it. It's not a problem, but it's not our fault, or it's not. We try to make sure it keeps balance. It's like in the wine, it has to be balanced. So we want to be present as in many countries as we can. The question of supplying everybody is not, I think, the good questions, because when we make wines like the chateaus you visit, you can't face or meet the whole demand. And that's all this good unbalance, which is good for the pricing and for the value of the wines. So we are making products which are small products, rare products for the world. The world is big. The world has never been bigger. And our production is stable, or you claim it was going down, which is not exactly true, but it's not big, and sometimes not big enough for the world. And from this balance, we try to make an advantage and to be in phase with the demand of the customers. But we can't supply, we can't meet the demand, but then we try to make arbitrage and to distribute as cleverly as we can. and to find the proper customers all over the world, in England, in the US, in California, to have people happy to have our wines.